into the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good afternoon.
It is Monday, March 18th, 2024. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, more fun stuff like that. Richard, I've forgotten the past couple weeks to promote Gaming Discourse FM. Name change pending.
Yeah.
But you're still putting
Still
mixes.
trucking on. Actually, we passed our first year, our year anniversary back in early February, and I forgot.
I try to remember to catch every week. Don't always, but I always try to. I should probably, because you have an RSS feed, right? Because you're uploading to Soundcloud too? Because I'm pretty sure.
I've been trying. I don't think I have for a very long time. But.
Okay, because I always go to YouTube to find you. If not, we should look into that.
Yeah.
But we don't have to have this conversation here. Okay, so we've got lots of news. We've got lots of games.
Just news.
I haven't played a whole lot. I've played the Battlefront collection, but we're going to talk about that whole controversy in a bit within the context of a story. So I'll save my thoughts on the Battlefront collection, the classic collection, for then. But besides that, what have I been? I haven't been playing a ton. I'm on the end stretches of Pro Era 2. Hopefully a video soon on that. Other stuff that I've been playing has to do with other projects that I'm working on, so I'm not really playing it just for fun. Still finishing my Outer Worlds playthrough. Continues to be really good. I'm really excited for the sequel. As far as I know, the sequel's not going to be connected to the first one. So the first one's going to be like its own thing, I guess. And
okay, cool.
The second one's, I guess, is going to be set in the same universe, but it's just not it's not going to have anything to do with the first one. So there's kind of a cool, I don't have to worry about like, oh, okay, then I can just have fun. I don't have to like, oh God, do I have to set things up for the sequel?
Oh, sure, you
like
can
that.
do like carrying over your character.
A very
and stuff.
first world problem anxiety to have, but I did pick up during the current Steam sale, I picked up Axis Football 2024. So there's this brand of football game, Axis Football, very small studio. They make a game every year, low budget, really like $20-$30 every year, I think. And I've had my eye on it for a couple of years now. And this year had a good sale on the Steam sale, so I picked it up. It is a pretty... it's not, the controls and everything are not it feels like I'm playing an older sports game, like early 2000s style with the controls, because the way the players feel and stuff like that does not feel as weighty or quote unquote realistic as it does nowadays. But I started a franchise that you can create teams, and you can, when you go into the franchise mode, you can create like a league. So you can have a custom amount of teams, and then you can also do, and I thought this was pretty cool, you can do American or European style regulation. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize about like the Premier League, the MLS. I mean, not the MLS. The Premier League in Europe is like, there are different tiers to European professional soccer. And if you do poorly, you'll drop down into a lower tier, into like a lower league. Not necessarily, it's still professional football, but it's just you're at like a second tier, as opposed to the NFL where you can be the Browns every year and you stay in the NFL or whatever. And there are differences and pros and cons to each one. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other, but in this football game, you can make a tier system, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's how I set up my league. I set up a tiered league and I created a team. And I was just doing simulation. I went into it just like, I'm just going to mess around. I'm not going to think too hard about it. I'm just going to mess with the game's mechanics and learn them and see. I created a team. They were very bad to start off. I think one year I went 0-16 at the beginning. I was in the bottom tier, but I created my own playbook for the team. I even tried to create my own offensive philosophy. You can create a playbook, and then you can create like the probabilities of what the AI will do on a down and distance. So for example, there's like first to end, 1 to third, second and 1 to third, third and 1 to third, fourth and 1 to third. On each of those, you can decide what's the probability that they'll pass or run. And then in those probabilities, it's what kind of pass and what kind of run, inside, outside, quarterback. And then the pass is like short, medium, long, screen, there's one other one, play action. So you can adjust all those probabilities to have like to give the AI like to force it to do, not forcing it, but to sort of make the probability, well, they'll like the most likely do a certain play in a certain situation. I did all that, and then in the franchise mode, they were running the offense that I created, but the probabilities were different. So I was like, oh damn. But anyway, so long story short, started this franchise. It was really bad. And I was like, I'm just gonna have to, start signing players and stuff. I stuck to my guns. I have a controversial football opinion that wide receivers are overrated. It's very controversial. It's gotten me in trouble before, not really, but wide receivers are overrated. So I de-emphasized wide receivers. I spent my money on offensive line, and I've done a whole bunch of revamping of the defense. But eventually, my team and the tier 3 went to the championship 3 times in a row and lost 3 straight times. And I was like, what? I'm gonna have to play the championship game. Because I was like, if I keep getting to the championship game and losing, I'm just gonna have to play it myself to win, because this is ridiculous. The 4th year in that stretch, I'd missed the playoffs. So I was like, okay, changes have to be made. So I fired my head coach, hired a different head coach, tossed out my defensive coordinator. We had a top 10 offense, but the defense was still bottom 3rd. So I was like, sorry, you got to go. Made a bunch of changes. My team eventually got back to the championship game. We won. We were promoted to the 2nd tier. So I was like, hell yeah, I expected the 2nd tier. I'm probably going to go 500. I just got to make sure that I don't get knocked back down. My team went undefeated and won the championship in its first year, and I'm now in the top tier, and I haven't done a simulation since. So at first it was like, oh, I'm just going to mess around, see what happens. And then eventually I drafted a really good quarterback, and I'm super successful, and I'm like, I'm starting to take this a little more seriously than I thought. But yeah, it's pretty fun. The customization is pretty cool. It makes me wish there was more competition for big football games, because I feel like if there are people out there that I think want a Madden type experience without it being, and without Electronic Arts there to ruin it. Which Electronic Arts has been doing a very good job making Madden a shitty game for going on, I don't know, a decade or so now. But more customization is always cool. And yeah, I was nerding out, picking the plays. All the plays. The plan was I created an offense. I called it the spread slug. Basically, it was no downfield passes, all short to medium passes, lots of hook routes, curl routes. Nothing that was like super downfield. Lots of play action, lots of running. So it was supposed to be contained and stuff like that. Have no idea if the AI is actually doing the way that I want it to. But yeah, that's it for me. Besides a little bit more Helldivers. Apparently, there's blue lasers. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes,
in Helldivers?
Seen them.
You have?
Yes.
Okay, so you're a believer. You're a blue laser truther.
Well, I don't want to, have to go to report to the democracy officer, but there have been rumors of blue lasers.
Okay, unsubstantiated.
Yes, of course,
sure. So what have you guys go? Connor, you go.
Well, real quick. I've been continuing with the worst of video game football, a Madden franchise. Continuing with my trying to turn the Cardinals into like a successful team. And I got really frustrated because I'm a few seasons in now, and in one game I had 6 starters get injured, 3 of them with season-ending injuries.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah. And so as I was frustrated there, then the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. I'm like, well, this can't be. So I saved that one, loaded up a new franchise as the Cowboys, released every starter that was 75 or higher overall rating, fired Mike McCarthy, just gutted out everything. Decided to relocate the team. Realized I couldn't move them to Cleveland because it's not one of the options.
Damn.
Even though one of the team names you could pick is the Steamers.
Oh my god. It's a family show, Connor. It's a family show.
So I moved them to San Juan. They're the San Juan Steamers. And hired some no-name head coach, no-name offense and defensive coordinators. spent the most money I could on a new stadium in San Juan.
Oh man, you did the most obnoxious owner thing possible.
Yeah. And then Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott ended up on the Vikings.
Good for them.
And then Tony Pollard actually ended up on the Giants.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just simulated the season to the playoffs just to see how it would play out. And they went 2-14 or 2-15.
There we go.
And then I retired.
There you go. Very nice.
So I took America's team out of America.
There you go. Very nice. Happy for you.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else you've been playing?
I'm taking a break from the Cardinals franchise because it's just too stressful right now. So I'm just having a fun franchise. I've decided to be the new owner of the Bears. The owner's name is Bob Schwartzky.
There you go. Very nice.
Yes. And yeah, no, it's not as stressful.
Okay. Good. I hope Bob Schwartzky can bring lots of sausage and victory to the Chicago Bears coming up soon. Richard.
Helldivers.
Okay. That's all you want to say?
What else am I going to say about Helldivers?
So,
have you seen the Blue Lasers?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen the Blue Lasers yet. No, I actually have been wanting to see the Fire Tornadoes, but I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, okay.
I recently unlocked the Suicide Mission difficulty.
I just did too, yeah.
And I have yet to complete a mission on Suicide Mission difficulty.
I did right before Suicide Mission, me and a buddy alone, we were like, oh, I think we can do the 10-minute, just kill as many as you can.
Oh, yeah.
Like the swarm ones. And we loaded into one. It was, like I said, the difficulty before suicide. I forgot. Challenging?
Hard.
No, hard? It's just hard, yeah. So he immediately, as soon as we landed, he immediately was stressed because he was already getting swarmed. And I chose to throw my Gatling the other way to go away from the swarm that was heading his way. And as soon as I turned, like a Bile Titan just appeared, just like, and I was in this very small area because it's a small map, and began to freak out. And we countered I think 4 Bile Titans that round. Which was very fun, and then we tried it again with our other friend. Our other friend came back, and we did a 3-man team. Bile Titan showed up. What the hell? And so we were disappointed in that. But it's a very stressful, but a lot more fun when you're also on higher difficulties. It kind of forces you to really, really play the game with a lot of communication, and it's just fast and frenetic, and you can just use all of your major items without any disregard, or with disregard for anyone else on your team, which is fun. But yeah, still playing Helldivers 2. I haven't been able to break myself away from other things in life to get to actual games I want to play. So,
well, we've got a few coming up. Dragon's Dogma.
I mean, there's already like
Rise of Ronin
in the last 3 months that I haven't got to. So,
and that is true as
Dragon's
well.
Dogma 2 is like probably top on the list though.
Yep. Okay. Well, if that's all we've been playing this week, we can hit the ad.
No, wait.
Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. The Battlefront Classic Collection used a modder's work after Aspyr said it wouldn't. So some background here. Asajj Ventress was a DLC character for Battlefront 2 on the Xbox, and for a long time was exclusive to the Xbox. A modder by the name of I Am Shaman made a mod for PC that reskinned Ayla Secura as Asajj Ventress. Ayla Secura is one of the Jedis in the game. The mod appeared in one of the Classic Collection's trailers, and people spotted it, and Aspyr said, oh, don't worry, that's there. I think they said it was a placeholder at the time. They're going to remove it. They're going to take it out. But the problem was when the game released, it was included in a couple different copies, I think it was included on PS5 was one of the first copies that people spotted it. There was other mods as well included on the Switch version that the modder pointed out. So very strange.
Oops.
they spoke with IGN saying, quote, "This release has been a total mess. The fact they had to release patches both before and immediately after releasing a 2-decade-old game really says it all, especially considering that part of the patches is rumored to have removed content they had already said was removed months ago. There's not really anything else I can say other than that other players aren't already screaming. It's a terrible feeling getting very pumped for a game like this, and it's just missing the mark entirely. It's a terrible gut punch," end quote. Okay. So yeah, have either of you guys played the Classic Collection yet?
No.
Yeah, Connor, you played it with me a little bit, a couple hours ago. I text you guys about. Well, first, what are I know your history with the Battlefront series, Connor. Richard, did you play them when they first came out back in the day?
Yeah, I played them, but I don't remember a whole lot.
Don't remember a whole lot. Okay.
It wasn't something that I'm one of the very few who like didn't really get Battlefront. I mean, I got it as like it was a great multiplayer, but I'm just not into it as everybody else is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a lot of thoughts when it released, and obviously there were server issues and there are bugs. Right now on the PS5, you can't invert your look.
Ooh.
So up is up and down is
standard.
down.
Like
yeah, it's standard with
option.
a lot of stuff, and game development is super hard, and I never want to make it out to be like super easy, but when something like that is missing, it's hard to it's hard to be patient with something that is included with every game and has been included with every game since for more than 20 years now. A simple option like that just isn't there.
There was another game recently that came out that didn't have y-axis inversion.
Yeah, that was
it that Star Trek? Yeah.
And that game was not finished when it released either. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, when that released in the summer, last summer, it was the same way, which I still have not gone back to that. But anyway,
it's fine. You don't have to.
So this game releasing with a mod paid for, right? Whether or not it's a mistake is pretty horrible.
Yeah.
And it's an embarrassing mistake, and I'm not sure what else you want to say about that. But I guess Connor, what were your thoughts on some of the stuff you saw in what you've played so far, the Classic Collection?
It feels like the old games did. Mm-hmm. For better or for worse. Some of the weird, like early gen like shooting mechanics, like with button placements and everything, still there. Which, yeah, I guess leave the controls how they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it felt like it used to. Some things that probably could have been addressed for like FOV sliders and stuff like that. Or
yeah, there's on the I can't speak for the PC or the other versions, but on the PS5 it's bare bones. The PS5 DualSense, I'm not sure how it's implemented in games. I don't know how developers work it in and how they give it certain like, what am I looking for? Certain settings to like certain guns, right? You play Resident Evil 8, the shotgun feels different than the pistol, whatever. I don't know what kind of code you put in the game to tell it to do that with the controller, but in Battlefront, it's all just the same, and it's just a very tough trigger the whole time. Oh. It's very uncomfortable, very weird. It feels like they just flipped on a default switch where it's like, do you want DualSense enabled? Yes, and then instead of like fine-tuning it from there, they just left it at default, so like factory standard, so it does not feel good at all. So I ended up shutting off my DualSense controller. And Connor, you can attest to that too.
Yeah, no, it's a very hard trigger draw when you have it on, and when it's off, it is smooth as butter.
Yeah, it works just like a trigger should. So that's another thing about the PS5 version that I dislike. They changed the loading screen sound, which is it's not I don't want. I know how that sounds. That they changed
Is it like
the loading screen
the
sound.
beeps when it like
Yes.
goes
Yeah.
into the?
But it's just weird because it's like, why is that different? It's just such a weird thing to change. You know what I mean? Because I can hear that loading screen in my head.
I didn't play it much, but I can hear it too. It's real
Yeah,
weird.
but they replaced the sound, which I don't know why it had to happen. I don't know why the sound file is different. It's just bizarre, is all I'm
Yeah. pointing
out. If the rest of the game were good, it'd still be like, oh, that's weird, but whatever. Hopefully, maybe they can patch it. But in concert
totality.
with everything else, it's just one more bizarre thing that's broken that I don't understand. I text you guys about just my utter like frustration because I don't. Battlefront is such a cool concept. You take because Star Wars, unlike something like Star Trek, already has these big battle set pieces, right? So it's perfect material for a video game.
Wherever you want in the galaxy,
Exactly.
at any point in time.
Exactly. So you've got all these places, you've got desert planets and snow planets and all these things. You've got big walkers, you've got snipers, you've got tanks, you've got all kinds of stuff you could do. And Pandemic did 2 really good games, and then after that, it's just been a huge well, and there was a PSP game. I don't remember who made that though. I don't think it was Pandemic.
Renegade? No.
I think it
Rebellion. Rebellion, I think.
I think you're correct. Because it was Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron or Renegade Squad.
Renegade. Renegade.
They had Battlefront 2
Squadron.
just in general, and then they had 2 more sequels after that. Elite Squadron and Renegade Squadron.
Elite Squadron.
Yep.
Oh, is that another PSP
That
one?
was the third one, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that. Anyway, doesn't matter. I guess my frustration with it is just like why it feels like the series is doomed, is not doomed, is cursed because we just can't get like a solid rendition. We can't figure out how to do these games justice. The EA's Battlefronts were fine for what they were, but they weren't Battlefront. And I remember a lot of the press around the EA's Battlefronts and stuff. And I can remember when the game was first announced, people kept asking, can you play offline with bots? Can you play offline with bots? Because I think for a lot of people, that's how they experience the Battlefronts. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, Pandemic's games came out at a time when online connectivity and like Xbox Live was not as ubiquitous as it is today. And I'm not even sure if Xbox Live was a thing in 2003. Didn't it start in 2004? I don't remember.
I can't recall.
But in any case,
Halo 2 was when it.
Yeah, Halo 2 I think was 2004, so I don't know. But the point I'm making is online connectivity was not as ubiquitous. You didn't have as many people and
2002, November 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't have as many people online. And I think a lot of people maybe grew up in a situation just because of how internet is everywhere, how easy, how available Wi-Fi is today. Back in the day, it was just 20 years ago, it was not that. So getting online to play an online game was not the same. So you filled matches with bots, and it was really fun. So when EA's first Battlefront came out, I remember, is it going to be offline with bots? Can you play offline with bots? And what people were saying was instant action, which is this thing in Battlefront where you can select a map, a game mode, and then you play that game and map with a ton of bots. That's what people meant at the time. EA said yes, but what EA wasn't saying was that you can't play the multiplayer mode with a ton of bots and by yourself. Or I guess you could, but it wasn't like the original Battlefronts where there was all these maps of different game modes and stuff like that. There were maps that were like one game mode, right? There was the game mode where the AT-AT would walk.
There were like missions, essentially.
And it was very similar to Battlefield 1's push mode or whatever. It's similar to that. But instead of you being able to like control the AT-AT, the AT-AT was just like this environmental thing that moved. So they were Battlefront, I really think, in name only. They didn't really attempt the Battlefield concept like Battlefront did. And that was a disappointment to me and a lot of other people, I think. And while they may have been fine games on their own, I think largely they're forgettable. because they didn't really do anything all that all that original or try to redo what the Battlefront games did. So now we're here and we get this classic collection in the midst of games that are constantly being remade. And I guess that's not always great. You know, the 13, that was a remaster. No, that was a remake, right?
13 was a remake, yes.
Yeah, so there have been like bad remasters and remakes. I guess plenty of them. But so now we're here and we've got this one, and it's not, and it has such a negative reaction. And for someone who, you know, a few of my favorite games of all time are the Battlefronts, and maybe, you know, right up there with Halo for me, the first two Battlefronts, it's just really disappointing that this series, for some reason, it just can't, like, we can't figure out how to, like, I don't know, just how to make another one or how to make an updated version that's not bugged to hell. And I'm not going to pretend that it's difficult to do those things, because I mean that it's easy to do those things, because I'm sure it's difficult. But at the same time, like, goddamn, can we can we fix any of this? So anyway, I think a lot of people are probably also rediscovering the Battlefields. I think a lot of people are discovering, like, Star Wars Battlefront, rediscovering it. I think a lot of people played it a long time ago and remember it as being amazing, but don't remember, Connor, you mentioned this, a lot of it hasn't aged well.
Well, I mean, it's a product of the industry of the time. Like, there were, if the further you go back, the more weird, like, control schemes you get, because that's just how they were then. They hadn't really refined movement or shooting
Or
to the
standardized
point,
things,
to the point where it is now. So when you go back and you go back to those control schemes, it feels off.
Yeah, and there are maps where there's a bunch of stuff that's super easy to exploit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you can, if you're in an X-wing, the X-wing's attack has splash damage on it, right? So it's like, you know, when you join a match in Battlefield and there's a guy in an airplane that has 100 kills, and it's like, oh my god, how are you doing this? You know, imagine that, but in Star Wars Battlefront, where the lasers have splash damage, so you don't even have to hit your target, you just got to get near your target, you know? And I think back in the day when you're a kid and you're playing, especially when you're playing with bots, those features that are easily exploitable don't appear so, because no one is exploiting them, because you're playing bots, so you're playing with other children. As opposed to today, where you hop in an online match, and as soon as somebody spots something, there's an entire subreddit dedicated to how do we manipulate this meta.
Right.
So that changes the way we perceive games, and I think a lot of people are rediscovering Battlefront and saying, oh man, this game is a lot older, is a lot weirder than I remember it to be. The classes are not like your typical shooter classes. There was something else that you can't sprint in the first Battlefront. You just sort of jog along. You can't sprint. That was introduced in Battlefront 2. You can't play as a Jedi in the first Battlefront. In fact, it's really weird. In the first Battlefront, you can have heroes on the they can, like, accompany you, but it's just AI controlled, and they're basically indestructible. If you run into a hero, which is kind of neat, but it's like, if they're there, there's nothing you can do except to try and blow, like, if you're on Bespin, which is a map with a bunch of platforms, you can try and blow them off the edge. That's the only way to get rid of them, though. Other than that, you try and shoot them, they're just gonna kill you.
How it should be.
Exactly. So there's a bunch of stuff like that. But that I wonder if people are discovering and how they're reacting to it. And like I was saying, there are maps where, and I think this is partially maybe due to, like, draw distance back in the day, and because so much of it was with controller, it was harder to snipe people. But nowadays, especially with how these games are not graphically demanding relative to today's machines, you go on Hoth, you can see so far
clear across the map
with a sniper rifle. And, like, on PC, you're hoping that there isn't a guy.
Yeah, because a drop wasn't factored in.
No, there was
either.
no ballistics. Yeah, so you're just, and when you're playing on PS2 in 2003, you don't need to worry about that, because to be able to make those kinds of shots at that resolution,
I was going to say, plus,
with draw distances,
someone further than 8 steps away is like 3 pixels big.
Exactly. But with today's graphics, with today's hardware and stuff like that, it's way easier to do, and it's way easier to exploit or just be really good at, and that changes the perception of like how these things work in the game. So yeah, I think that's an interesting concept.
And saying that the game is times the data of the originals.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is a lot of I don't know if Aspire has said why, but I think both games clock out around 30 gigs.
Each. Because the originals were only on DVD format, so that's 4.7 gigs.
I love it when you talk nerdy.
Sorry.
No, and when I had to install it on my PC, Battlefront 2, and it's like installing like a README doc. It goes so quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The visuals look better. I don't know if the visuals are like at a higher resolution.
I've seen one of those like originals, and then it like swipes to like, and I mean it does like it looks better. Like
and it runs well, but
yeah.
I don't know if Connor's looking at a Reddit post right now that says the file size is completely justified. And
all
maybe
caps,
it is
completely justified.
And maybe it is. I really have no idea. But that, to me, that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is how much there is broken with the games.
Yeah.
Right. Like again, I can't invert my axis when I look, and that's just crazy to me. And it makes me really have to focus when I'm playing the game, because I've played it inverted since Halo. So it's like to play Battlefront and like up is up and down is down. I really have to like force myself to stay focused there. Yeah. Okay, I think I got all my thoughts out for that.
Just on that Reddit thread, one of the comments is this aged like milk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't need to talk about it, because I don't want to get stuck in what people are saying on the technical side of the game or whatever. It wouldn't matter if the games were perfect and ran perfectly well.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's my opinion there. The other thing about the Battlefront games is how awesome some of its maps are. Like there's this map called Renvar Harbor that I love. And it's kind of a horseshoe shaped map where if you're playing Rebellion and Empire, the Empire starts on the right side. The Rebellion starts in a base with all these buildings. And the Empire starts over here. There's like a small group of a little ruin they start in, and they have an AT-AT. And they have to walk the AT-AT around this big horseshoe, and then you have to assault this base that has all these like buildings and windows. It's really neat. And the base has like a center square, right?
Oh yeah.
So you can like you can spawn from the AT-AT. So if you can get the AT-AT close to that Rebellion base, then you can start sending troops into the base, and you can get a foothold there. You don't have to worry about as much about the AT-AT. But there's also an ice cave that's just big enough for infantry to go in between, the bottom of the horseshoe. You can cut through. So there's like two ways. So if you're playing as the Empire and you can like break through that ice cave, then you can get a foothold that way. It's a very simple, interesting map.
Well designed, too.
That I think is really cool, and it's well designed. And also, there's, just like with Hoth, and I don't think any other game has replicated this before, since. Like, when you're playing as the Rebellion, you get that, like, oh shit, you see the AT-AT slowly, like, bearing around the corner, and it's like, oh shit, it's almost here. Just like on Hoth, and just like in Episode 5, when the guy's looking through his scopes, and he just sees the AT-ATs out in the distance, you get a really similar feeling. But that's never been replicated, and that makes me sad. Pro tip, if you shoot the AT-AT in the neck, there's like a secret weak spot. You can take like triple the health away with a turret. So anyway.
Very thin, that neck.
Yes.
Design flaw, honestly.
Well, when you're the Empire. When you're a fascist, I mean, you don't have to worry about
cut corners.
Yeah, you cut corners. Is there anything else you want to say about the Battlefront games, Connor?
I don't think so.
Okay, I apologize for taking up all the time.
No, pop off.
These are some of my favorite games of all time, and it just makes me sad that we can't figure out how to, I don't know. We just can't figure out how to make
landed
Star
on the
Wars.
moon in 1969.
Star Wars Battlefield, huh?
So we landed on the moon in 1969.
We did. We landed on the moon in 1969. We have a laser up there. You can shoot the laser. Laser comes back. It's amazing. Neil Armstrong had to fly the lunar module upside down while he was landing on the moon. We did that in 1969. And I can't invert my controller in 2024 with the Battlefront collection. Okay.
Now Louis Armstrong's up there laughing at me.
Yes, now Louis Armstrong's up there laughing back at us, playing his trumpet. Okay, I see skies of black. Okay, workers at Gamurs Group. Okay, we got to hold on because this is gonna get serious. This is a serious story. We got. Shut
up, Connor.
we got to focus up. We got to focus up. Stay frosty. Okay, workers at Gamurs Group describe it as hell. This is according to Luke Plunkett at Aftermath, who wrote a piece about the conditions at Gamurs Group. Gamurs Group is I want to call it a media company. I don't know if it is technically a company, but I'm going to say it's a company that owns .esports, Destructoid, Attack of the Fanboy, and The Escapist, among other sites. Speaking with 10 current and former workers, Gamurs Group is described as a once normal place to work. Many sources say they had been happy working there through 2022, but in the last year, a different editorial strategy has resulted in burnout, layoffs, and quitting. There's also been some pretty poor management. Workers were laid off and only given like 24 hours notice, sometimes even less than that. A little bit of background. In 2022, Gamurs Group acquired the Escapist, Destructoid, and Silicon Era. In 2023, however, changes to Google's search algorithm negatively impacted Gamurs network traffic, and changes were made to worker jobs and performance goals that became unsustainable. One former editor speaking with Plunkett says, quote, "As a vertical lead, I was expected to edit 10 to 15 stories a day, write 10 stories a week, source 10 news stories a day, and also manage training and sorting through CVs to hire new writers. I felt a lot of pressure to do all that and improve traffic and keep the vertical's overall output above 1,200 stories a month. From what I hear from other sites on the network, it was similar. Our staff writers had to do 85 articles a month, so just over 4 every workday. And they had traffic goals too, so they were basically encouraged to write about stuff they knew would do well and ignore current stuff like updating older guides, which wouldn't count toward their overall goals." CEO Raid Chakani, I believe it's pronounced, and Gamurs Group did not respond to requests for comment from Luke Plunkett. Okay, so we've talked about like the state of online media and games journalism in the past, but I didn't want to let this story go by because it's an update to what was a really tough 2023 for if you're writing about journalism and stuff like that. I'll give you guys the floor. I want to see if I can find something real quick, but yeah, our thoughts on this, our thoughts on The Escapist. We didn't talk about them when The Escapist had that big exodus. Nick Calandra, I believe, is the name of the guy who was leading it. He was fired, and then a bunch of people just left, including like Yahtzee and everybody, and they just started Second Wind. But we didn't talk about it at the time. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Thoughts on any of this?
Being a games journalist has proven to be very difficult in the last couple of years, and also just throughout the 2010s when algorithms and getting clicks has become insanely prevalent, at least to how the gears turn for this industry. And I think it's unfortunate that writers are somewhat focused on, or being forced to focus on, creating subpar content for their own jobs, because that's particularly not what we want to do when we write about games or when we do games. We don't want to be forced into finding these 4 stories or 85 articles a month for every day just to just to try to get a chance to write about one thing we may like, if that makes sense. Because a lot of these journalists really want to create bigger and better stories, but they can't when they're brought down by essentially fruitless and soulless work. And it really sucks to see that happen. And I just say I really hate the name Gamurs Group. Not the name, specifically how it's spelled.
Oh, yeah, with the U.
I can't get over stuff like that.
It's not the British way of spelling it, is it? Stupid joke.
It's Gaems.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, and like, how do we fix this? What do we do? Because can a website that writes about games be sustainable? And I think it can be.
They all can, I think.
But so why aren't they? What's going on there? I think if you look at, I forget the name of the parent company that owns Deadspin and Kotaku, Geomedia. Right, Geomedia is ran by this moron, Jim Spanfelder. Doesn't matter what his fucking last name is. Kotaku has been a successful site, a successful game site for a very long time, right? Spanfelder goes in there. He immediately there's friction between him and Deadspin. Deadspin was an outlet for a long time, wrote some really bad stuff. It would take me 15 seconds to look up some stuff Deadspin wrote that would make your insides curl. But I think in the latter part of the 2010s and into the 2020s, and you know, a long time ago, also, even during their more risque years, did some excellent journalism and was a voice for sports media that didn't exist back then and still doesn't exist a whole lot now. Which was adversarial. Sites like ESPN, Fox Sports, whatever. There is a certain level of like, hey, we're gonna, hey, NFL, Skip Bayless, hey, fuck you. But it's fake, it's theatrical, it's corporate, it's whatever, it's sanitized. As opposed to like, I think Deadspin, which was a real, hey, fuck you. Mm-hmm. That was not corporate. It was real. It was authentic. And it pointed fingers at all that corporate fakeness and all that bullshit. And I think that's what Kotaku did a lot too. So in recent years, Kotaku has now been the next target of Geomedia's ongoing attempt to mess up all these sites. Patricia Hernandez left Kotaku last year. I think she was put on as the editor after Stephen Totilo left, the executive. I'm not sure, the head editor, whatever. I don't remember the title. After Stephen Totilo left, and then Patricia Hernandez was there, and then she left. And I think you guys remember her quote that at the time she was, what was it? She said something to the effect of, it's really difficult when your boss wants you to write about, it was something like wants you to only write about, or not write about Tears of the Kingdom and write about something else when Tears of the Kingdom is the biggest game of the month. Something, or the biggest game of that time, right? Yeah. Something to that effect. And then that's what we're seeing here. I don't know why Chicani, the CEO of Gamurs Group, I think Luke Plunkett said that he has been the CEO since like 2014, right? And up to 2022, all these people said their jobs were fine. So is it just the change in Google's algorithm that got this huge culture shift going, where all of a sudden we're talking about AI writing articles and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. Oh, that was another part of the story, was that Gamurs Group put up a position to have somebody write AI articles, and they got so much pushback and criticism for it, they took it down. But is it just because Google's algorithm changed? And if it did change, did it change in such a way that your site can't exist, or that you're just going to lose shareholder value? And at that point, are you just being a coward? I want to read something. Sorry, I wanted to look this up because last year, GamesIndustry.biz wrote a piece about, last July 4th, wrote a piece about why so many games media layoffs were happening. This is by Ki-Hoon Chan, a contributor at gamesindustry.biz. And there were part of the story was layoffs at Gamers Group. I lost the quote now. Give me a quick second. I lost it. Where is it? Okay, there. I have it now. Okay, so in this story, they're talking about Gamers Group. They're talking about layoffs. And I'm going to just read a quote from it because Chicani last year said one of our favorite CEO corporate things to say.
Nice.
So, reading the story, however, the sheer volume of content being produced and the ineffectiveness of this editorial strategy was one reason cited by Gamers founder and CEO Riyad Chicani for the layoffs, in addition to the Silicon Valley Bank's collapse. That was another part of the story was Silicon Valley's was the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. In an email sent to Gamer staff, Chicani wrote that approximately 35% of the content produced was driving less than 10% of web traffic, and the group cannot maintain such a high level of inefficiency. And then, quote, this is Chicani's words, conclusively, this investment into new categories and simultaneously increasing the volume across existing sites, ones didn't deliver the profitability to justify further investment. I take full accountability for the decisions we make as a company, end quote. And then they wrote, Chicani still remains in his position at Gamers Group CEO today. So we have a company who lost a ton of talent, made an acquisition with The Escapist, right? A very famous outlet with lots of history, including Yahtzee, who is a famous creator. James Stephanie Sterling once wrote there before they went independent. Anyway, so you have this. It's like you're acquiring a big brand, like Kotaku, and suddenly something bad happens and all your talent leaves. Well, who's responsible for that? Is it the CEO that supposedly takes full accountability, or
if there was something that changed regarding a decision they've made, then yes.
And it seems like that's what happened. That's right, what's exactly. happened. So,
but there also there's those words specifically like in investments and like sure. returns, and the thing is like these aren't so you want to make a job out of writing, but you don't specifically want to write to make money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, you don't do it in hopes of becoming rich and like getting a consistent. The way the CEO is speaking about it in terms of, it seems like I invested into this thing, I should be getting my money back, when it's like, well, no, that's not like, yes. You don't do it for a return on investment. You do it to create a publication, and then the money that you get from that sustains it. And it's no, he's treating it like a lot of CEOs treat what they run as playthings to get more money.
Yeah, to get ever increasing returns, which is unrealistic to expect. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then when that doesn't bear out, you start cutting people or whatever, and none of it makes sense, and it's stupid, especially when you're talking about online media, which is already fraught with, because you're at the mercy of Google, you're at the mercy of Facebook, you're at the mercy of all these tech companies that are all ran by morons. So it's like
who have more than enough money to push you out.
Who have more than enough money to make a change that they know is going to disrupt, a 10,000 person business, but they just don't care. So it's like, well, how do you react to that? There are no easy answers here, but I think I have thought about, how do we solve this? I think independence is one way, and by that I mean we have to remove the C-suite executives from the equation, because we know that there is demand. People want to read about Helldivers 2. They want the guides, but they also want they want the perspectives, they want the reviews, they want opinions, right? So how do we get a world where that can exist? And I think Aftermath, which again is where the story came from, which is a bunch of Kotaku writers who left Kotaku, started their own site, and they started Aftermath. And now, unfortunately, that's, if you go independent, where are you getting your funding? How are you getting paid? And you have to find an audience. So it's just up to you being funded through, to viewers like you. Thank you. It becomes down. It goes down to that, right? And that's scary, because you're just asking a bunch of random people to sustain you, you know? Instead of getting capital from like people who are going to invest money and help you sustain yourself. But I also think that that's I don't know, what other options are there unless we get an executive type culture that doesn't need to, have an increase in profits and growth forever and ever until the end of time.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to find that. So I think we have to find spaces where you can gain independence and you can gain an audience that is willing to support you. And then I think after that, there has to be some form of like synergy, right? So people make games, and Aftermath both do games journalism, but they do it differently, and they do it in different mediums. One's visual, one is written. So that means there's going to be certain things that one outlet can do better than the other one just by the nature of the type of medium it is. Mm-hmm. And there's certain challenges to each one. And there's certain, whatever, right? They're different mediums. So what kind of synergies do we have there? Is it as simple as when people make games, releases a video, Aftermath says, hey, go watch this video? Is as simple as just promoting as cross promotion, as trying to build those bridges. Steven Totillo started GameFile, which is a really good email newsletter. It's partially behind a paywall, but he's been doing great work this year. But it's like, how many people are subscribed to that newsletter? And if we want to have a positive impact on video games as a medium and as an industry, then I think you have to have that synergy where Steven Totillo writes about something and then him doing an interview becomes news in other places where people will see it. Because if it stays within the bounds of his newsletter, then how many people are actually going to read it? What kind of effect is it going to have, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I don't totally have it figured out yet, but I think to break away, it really does have to be like a grassroots effort where you find people that care, you let them do their thing. Hopefully you can find an audience that cares. I think partially as you have to find people who don't just play games, but want games to be good, right? Like you can write the best article ever or make the best video ever, but if the algorithm takes it to a spot where the person's only concern is drop rates for a purple gun, like it's just not going to matter. So you have to find that audience that, agrees with you on some level or is sympathetic to the plight of the stuff that you're writing about, that you're talking about, right?
Right.
And that's not easy. And how much of that is there? I don't know. I think there's more than people give it credit for. So, yeah. Did any of that make sense? Sorry, was that just rambling? I don't know.
I mean, rambling, but it makes sense, but it's just a little bit outside my wheelhouse.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Did you guys have any thoughts on this? And besides what we've already said?
No, I don't. I just know that, like, in the current day and age, how this stuff is. There is. Sorry, hold on. I'm gonna relegate this to my job.
Go for it. I love stories.
People come in all the time, and they go, "Man, if they just would release X game, they would make so much money." And I have told people, no, they wouldn't. Like, they would only make as much money as the people who are interested. Like, and this was something that I was kind of good. I couldn't find a way to like relate it to Battlefront, but the Battlefront collection. But it's like Battlefront 1 and 2, you've been able to get this entire time on PC for extremely cheap. The biggest difference that I know of in the classic collection, obviously besides the, probably frames and the updated textures, is 64 players instead of 24 originally, I think.
It was 32, I think. It was 16 and 16.
Right. Which is nice, but it's also like, is that really making or breaking the game? Like, as like the whole thing goes. And I understand it can't be re-released, or at least those two aren't re-released on. You can't just take those original PC versions and like put them on
Sure.
Got to do other stuff to it, which is what Aspire tried to do. But anyways, so there are lots of little things you can do that in the gaming journalism industry, there's lots of holes that can be filled that you can create revenue from. In the article, they did talk about having or wanting to go back and update, excuse me, older game guides, which is something that still needs to be done because there are still a lot of folks who don't want to, like, if I need to go find, where are these things? Like, where the hell are they? I don't want to go to a forum and then here's the video that you have to sift 20 minutes from some jerk off talking to find what you're looking for.
Sure, yeah.
I would prefer, like, here's a photo. There it is. Oh, cool. Because I'm visually, I know where that is, you know, and so that could work for a lot more people. It could work for a lot more people if you, or at least enough people that you want to talk about Chrono Trigger instead of Helldivers 2, or if you want to talk about, I don't know, the Grand Blue Fantasy phone game instead of the newest, you know, release that just came out. There are little things that you can do that you can still make revenue off of. It doesn't have to constantly be a race to the top with the newest and greatest and being first.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I would say the thing with game guides, the problem there is that if it's a game that doesn't from an SEO dipshit's perspective, if it's a game that's not popular, why should we update the game guide? Because people aren't clicking on it, right? If you need to go back and update something about a romance in Baldur's Gate 3, I'm sure that's still really hot right now. People are constantly Googling that. So it's like, keep those updated. But if you're, you know, if you need to look up something from, I don't know, Dragon Age Inquisition, you're shit out of luck because no one's Googling Dragon Age Inquisition stuff. So, and that creates an environment where some stuff that is there is SEO, so you have to scroll down to the bottom of an article to get the answer, or you have to put Reddit at the end of it to find your answer, which is a problem, which I think proves that there is a desperate need on the internet for questions like this to be answered in a context that isn't Reddit. Because as good as Reddit is, sometimes Reddit is indecipherable or it doesn't answer your question specifically because it's disorganized and it's people asking random questions and hoping to get an answer somewhere, which is fine. But yeah, you could do that a lot better at a site that is more dedicated to like accurately and wholly and finishing guides and stuff like that. There was I was putting together a long time ago. I was putting together something for a project, and I found a link to a instruction on how to romance. What's her name? Why can't I think of her name suddenly?
What game?
Baldur's Gate 3. She's a she can turn into an animal. I'm losing all kinds of words here. Jaheira. You could romance Jaheira. And it was an instruction it was a guide to how you can romance Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 3. And it came out right around the time that Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Problem number one with that is that you can't romance Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 3. So somewhere on the internet there is, here's how to romance Jaheira. And you click on this article and it's like, we will update this article once we figure out how to romance Jaheira. And it was never updated because they moved on to other things. And I'm not the slightest bitter about it because I definitely didn't click on it early on and think, oh, look at that, you can romance Jaheira, sweet, only to learn a week later that it was a lie. But anyway, so yeah, it's like I think there is a demand for stuff like that, and we just have to like figure it out. But I really think independence and finding people that care, and then in those niches, you have to do that cross promotion. I think the people that are going to read Stephen Tottilo's game file, you've got to point them to People Make Games, because I think that makes the world of games media better, that they know that this other thing exists, that there's other information that they can get. And if you're at Aftermath, you got to point them at GameFile, and you've got to point them in other different directions and say, look at all these different outlets, because there's tons of good, you know, I roll my eyes when people, games journalism's dead. It's like, no, it's not. It's dead because you're just going to the SEO sites and making your opinion based on a quick 10-second glance, right? It's like if you follow Cecilia D'Anastasio or Jason Schreier, and you have for the past few years, all you've gotten are banger story after banger story about huge issues in the games industry, right? You just have to be willing to follow it. But in their defense, it is sporadic. There's paywalls everywhere, and it's contained in all these niche places. So I think to solve that, there has to be cross promotion. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Matty Ice has an interesting interview. Matt Piscatella of Circana. Matty Ice is a low effort, lazy nickname I give him for no reason. Done an interview with Games Industry.
I'm going to let him know. I'm going to message him.
You could tell him.
No.
On the show
Ice.
next week.
And here's the thing about Matt. If we ever interview Matt, which I would love to do one day, I'm going to ask him if we can call him friend of the show. I've always wanted somebody to be. Sports radio shows are like that. Sure. And next on the StarCraft radio network, we've got friend of the show, Joe Montana. Something like that. It's like I want a friend of the show.
I think once they're on once, you can just maybe we can just implore it onto him. Matt, you are now a friend of the show. Get over it. Put up with it. Now answer these questions about Nintendo sales numbers. Okay, so Matt Piscatella, an analyst at Circana and friend of the show, said a lot of interesting things. I'm just going to read 2 chunk quotes here. Both of these are meat sandwiches. On the games industry secrecy, Piscatella says, quote, "Folks think they have secret sauce and they don't want anyone else to know the secret sauce. I want people who are interested to be able to have at least some idea of what's going on when it comes to the numbers. But some of the stuff is super hard to get and figure out. It's certainly not easy. Movie slates, music slates, other entertainment things. We know the TV development schedule for Marvel going out forever, but we don't know what games are coming out next month." And then on 2024 specifically, these are a couple quotes that I've sort of pasted together. "The uncertainty level this year is probably the highest I can recall, and I've been around since 2005. With the uncertainty of what's going on, what's going to get us to the finish line because we don't have those big games announced that we know. When people are saying our slate's going to be light this year, that's not something that usually happens. This is going to be a tough year, but if you look towards 2025, if interest rates come down and money becomes a little bit more free-flowing to devs and publishers, we should get a boost in the development cycle again. We're going to get a renewed batch of interest with GTA 6 in particular. That's probably never been a more important market, just from the big boom to the hardware shortages to the topping out of engagement, but it's kind of a thing where we've regressed to the long-term trend, and now we should be starting to get toward following that trend again as we go into 2025. I think it's short-term pain. Hopefully I'm not wrong, but it's going to be a little bit painful for this year," end quote. So yeah, as I said, couple meat sandwiches there. Do we have thoughts? Everything Matt Piscatella says I love. Yeah,
I love. But
the first paragraph that we read is very interesting because knowing the slate schedule for like Marvel is interesting, but like with the game industry, we don't know what's happening, and I wonder if like because the game industry as a whole wants to keep this like excuse me. I think. Yes, no, I know. Games make more than movies, music, any other media.
As an industry.
And I think that, unfortunately, because of that, the inflatedness of the egos of all of the gaming companies have, like, kind of come together to kind of want to keep this mentality or keep this, like, envision that, like, gaming as media is the cool kid, and I'm not going to give you my secrets because I want you to keep giving me that energy of when I finally do like that thing you wanted. Like, we've seen how rabid people were for the GTA 6 trailer, or for almost effortlessly, and it's kind of like worrying when you see that type of response for that singular thing that won't be out for another 2 years, a year now. And is in the second paragraph from what Matt Piscatella says is the thing that is so important to this industry. I think it's very weird.
It is. I think he's correct.
Yes.
I think it's weird that he's correct.
I think, yes. But on that flip side, for me, if I pull back, I want to take what he says about having nothing going on this year being, going to get, anyway, saying that it's going to be very slow this year, saying that nothing's happening. I think it's just so important that indies do their best to fill in that hole for this year, because I think that can shake up the industry if specific games get big enough. And I know that, like, keep talking about it, I've been talking about it for weeks, but I think that's what Helldivers 2 has done, despite it not being an indie game. Well, yeah, it's an indie game, right?
PlayStation publishes it.
Indie adjacent, right. Yeah. But there's a reason why it's supposedly has sold 8 million copies already. It's because not the main reason it's a good game. It's just a very good game. Second main reason,
crave democracy.
that too. The second reason is that it's $40.
Yeah.
And I hope that the gaming industry is gonna learn all the wrong lessons from Helldivers 2.
I'm sure they will.
Just like everything else, but we have other major milestones happening with Xbox releasing Grounded, Sea of Thieves. There are other two games I can't remember. Pentiment, on Hi-Fi Rush, which just came out today, on other consoles. I think there is more to look at this year than what Matt is saying, but I understand why he's focusing so much on
and
specific.
He's speaking in a certain context, right? Yeah. It's like I think if you look at it from a certain perspective, he's correct in the sense that if you're somebody who has been investing in video games, you've never played a video game, you don't know the industry, you've just thrown money at it, then GTA 6 is this big deal to you. What bothers me about, and there's the fact that 2024 is going to be a slow year. That's just a fact, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Does it have to be, though? I think that's an interesting question. Already, I can name 3 games that have been hits: Enshrouded, Palworld, Helldivers 2, right? 3. Now, Enshrouded may not have articles everywhere, but it was a hit. I think it sold. I think it had. I don't know if it got to 1 million, but it got pretty high up on the Steam charts. Palworld took over the world, and Helldivers 2 took over the world, right? Both extremely different games, right? So it's like, okay, so there's demand for video games. It's not like people aren't paying for video games. Yeah. So when you talk about industry downturn, when you talk about what are we going to do, there's no engagement, there's no people, our industry isn't growing. Oh my God, an asteroid's going to hit the earth, we're all going to die. It's like, okay, well, people are still just throwing money at video games and playing them, playing the shit out of them. So what's the issue here, Phil? Like, what is the big issue? And that's what frustrates me is we keep hearing about how horrible the god awful state that the industry is in, which from a certain perspective is correct because there are layoffs and there's mismanagement and all that. But it's like, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Because so far this year has been dominated by one game that is going to be a Game of the Year contender this year. And it's going to be, and if Helldivers 2 had come out last year around this time, it may not have been as popular, but it still would have been a Game of the Year contender. It still would have been really popular. It's not like people are playing it because there's nothing else to play.
Right.
It's just a really damn good game. I think, it's probably benefited from there not being a lot of releases. But if Dragon's Dogma 2 is an A+ game, gets 10 out of 10, is an instant Game of the Year contender, there's still going to be a shit ton of people playing Helldivers 2. It's not going to die, right? So it's like, I don't know. I think sometimes from a certain perspective, it's overblown because it's like people are excited to play games and they're willing to buy games. And Richard, what you said is so correct because it's like lessons that you can learn from one game are not lessons about the industry at large. So like why Helldivers is successful, you can't say here's why Helldivers is successful and apply it to now let's do that with this game. That doesn't always work. There's all layers of context there. So you can't just replicate that because you could do the same thing with Palworld. You could say why is Palworld successful and let's apply it to our game. That doesn't necessarily ring true. That won't necessarily work. And I think you have to realize that as a publisher or whatever. But you're right that, and Jason Schreier joked about this with Tears of the Kingdom, is like, executives will look at Tears of the Kingdom and say, I wonder why this is successful. I don't know. Let's add food crafting to all our games, right? Completely miss the point of what made it like a really good game that so many people loved and stuff like that. I think one of the perspectives that I understand is that the Switch is delayed until next year, Switch 2, right?
Yeah.
So I can see it there, because if you're making a game right now and you're trying to figure out where you want to release it, and Switch 2 isn't coming out till next year, now you have to decide, do I want to delay my game to next year, or do I want to put it out now? It's like, what do I want to do there? I understand that. I wanted to do. Oh yeah, and then with GTA 6, I'm glad you brought that up. Again, like, GTA 6 is a really specific context, just like Red Dead Redemption 2 was a really specific context. And so if you're using that as a barometer for industry positivity, I don't know, it would be like if you're using the Super Bowl to determine whether or not you should invest in a July baseball game. That the Super Bowl is not an accurate representation of the sports media landscape at large, because it is a specific event that has a certain cultural relevance that does not exist in other sports and other places, and it has a history that does not exist in other sports and other places. So it literally is like investors see GTA 6 and they're like, okay, that'll be the moment we see how the games industry reacts, right? And it's like, do you not see what's happening with Helldivers 2, with Palworld? What other opportunities are out there right now that you're not capitalizing on because you're not paying attention to the industry, because you listen to Strauss fucking Zelnick talking with Jim Cramer, and you're like, well, I guess there's just no games anymore. I don't know, whatever. Stop laying off employees. Damn it. Richard, are you okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think one of my eyelash hairs is like curling in.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because you were going at your eye pretty hard there.
Yeah. Keep poking in my eye. God damn it.
Do you have tidbits?
Man, am I right?
Are you going to be okay doing tidbits? Is
Yes.
this going to be like a
yeah.
Michael Jordan with the flu tidbit
No,
thing?
God, no. God.
Okay, let's do it. What if I told you, in this world, there are bits, and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits. Should I stop talking?
It was just annoying, but I was thrown off. I haven't paid attention to the whirl in a while, like when in the.
Oh, yeah, damn it! So. You're bringing that up again.
Yeah, no, I just haven't paid attention to it, and it hit me hard. So
you're tearing me apart, Richard.
Sorry. Hey, a lot of people have died recently. Unfortunately.
Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, just two.
Okay.
Just two.
All right.
Well, technically three, but two. That wasn't a joke. Well, whatever. So just yesterday, Mutsumi Inomata, the character designer and artist for the Tales of series, passed away. Unfortunately, she was 63. No other info than that, but the Tales series released a notification about it. Unfortunately, she did a lot of the work for Tales, the entire Tales series up until I think Berseria was the last one she worked on before Tales of Arise. Also, Steve Perringer died. He was the cover artist for some classic games such as Super R-Type, Final Fantasy Legend, and Leisure Suit Larry. Did some other ones as well, but he had some very, very cool artwork. He passed away at the age of 73 on March 12th. Moving on. And Akira Toriyama passed away, of course. That was the technical, because
games adjacent.
Yeah, I could have talked about that last week, but I didn't. But I did talk about it on the other show. Did a tribute episode. Anyways, Nobuo Uematsu has revealed that the main theme from Final Fantasy X, which is titled To Zanarkand, was not originally made for Final Fantasy X. It was going to be a song that he created for a Japanese flautist who needed a song for a recital because he was graduating and coming back and stuff. Uematsu eventually held onto the song because he thought it was too slow for the recital, and he declined. He made a different song for the performer. Uematsu was behind on work for Final Fantasy X when the producer stopped by and basically was just like, I need something. Give me something. Like, I need it now. And he gave him Xanarkand, and the producer was like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is it. And it ended up being a perfect fit because that is like the main song people know from that game. So
That's kind of how we got our theme song for the show.
That's true, isn't
I
it?
just had spare recordings. I was like, we'll use this. This sounds good.
No, it's special.
it sounds great. Actually, it's wonderful.
French 57 recorded it specifically for our
I
podcast.
also released a song the other day.
You did?
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, another French 57 song?
Yeah.
From the archives? Or?
Yeah. It was the first song we wrote together as a band
Okay.
that we never got around to actually fully producing everything. Then we just had some old recordings of it that on.
Okay. Wow, interesting.
Slap
All
it
right.
together, baby. Got
French
Baby
57.
got a stew going.
Go check that out. Go check that. Maybe you got a stew going.
That was all the tidbits for today.
Oh, okay.
This week,
Okay,
yeah.
that's all the tidbits. I thought I saw something or heard something that was tidbit worthy, but it's gone now.
There's a lot of stuff that is tidbit. I learned that for Pikmin, the what they did to get reference photos, that they spray painted like a ton of ants, different colors, to see how they worked. And so they, in early builds of the game, they credited every single ant, but they they had to tone it down because it was 500,000 HD images of ants, and they needed space for the game, so they just did it.
My god!
I don't know if that's true or not, but I came across somebody who was talking about weird cut content.
There's easier ways to do it than spray painting ants.
Oh, I'm sure there is. But
No, I forget the technical term for the bug scientists, but they'll just put sugar water with food coloring in
food
it.
coloring, yeah.
And the ants will
We'll
eat it
and glow it.
and then
glow,
they'll be
yeah.
that color.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about ants.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can.
Ants are fucking terrifying.
They also have they have a communal stomach that they will use to feed other ants with.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. They throw up in each other's mouths.
An ant anecdote I have is, if you've ever read Henry Thoreau's Walden, which is about his year that he went off the grid and lived in the forest, he talks about this moment where he picks up two ants on a leaf, and he describes them fighting each other, and it's really barbaric. The ants rip each other's legs off and stuff.
Yeah.
And he just describes how their end of these two ants' lives is just so horribly violent and barbaric. Anyway, but I did think of something, but damn it. So we'll end the show with this. The greatest line in video game history. Okay, I discovered it as part of a project. I'm doing some stuff. I played Army Men RTS, was one of the games that I played through and finished.
Sure.
Greatest line in video game history, right? So Army Men, is the game. He plays the little toy Army Men, and I forget the lead actor's name. He plays the Sarge who's got the nose thing on his nose. And there's this scene. So in the game, you have to fight ants, right?
Yeah.
Ants come after you. Got to shoot the ants, but you're also fighting tan soldiers, and
Yes.
you don't know why. You don't know why the ants are allied with the tan soldiers. You don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the last levels, Sarge is looking through binoculars, and he sees the ant queen is captured by the tan. So that's how the tan are controlling the ants.
Yeah.
And his line, when he discovers the ant queen, he says, "Well, dip me in chocolate and call me tasty." I was like, bam! Greatest line in video game history right there. He's like, "Well, dip me in chocolate and call me tasty." There's the queen ant right there. It was greatest line in video game history. Army Men RTS.
I miss that series, man.
It is.
I was a
And
big fan
wouldn't
of
that
it.
be a fun thing to do?
And there's weird things that they've done, that are really cool. But yeah, Army Men was different.
It was one of those things where it was, because everything was green and tan, it wasn't violent, it was playful.
Yeah.
You turn those colors red and oh my god.
Except for that Violet chick who's purple for some reason.
Yeah, she's anthropomorphized because she has white skin.
Yeah, well, so is the Sarge's daughter.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vivian,
Yeah.
Valerie, I think. Valerie, yeah. Which
she got her own game, by the way.
And it does make sense because she breathes through her skin. So that's why she needs to wear a tank top the whole time.
Got it.
How would she?
Uh-huh.
Okay, dumb joke. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse, youtube.com/Gaming Discourse, Gaming Discourse FM, name pending. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.